Hello and welcome to Let's Enter the Arena. I'm your host, VM Campos. This is the podcast where I talk with a member of the Magic the Gathering community, and we focus on Arena, but talk about everything about Magic. I've got a return guest to the podcast this week. Please welcome back Mythic Mikaela.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome to the podcast. What would you like to promote? Any social media, etc.?
Yeah, so I'm fairly active on Twitter, and I sometimes post memes or just, weird things that my child did. Or Magic Nicholas sometimes, sometimes we're serious.
Yeah.
And so I'm Mythic Mikaela on Twitter, and I'm also Mythic Mikaela on Twitch, and I stream Mondays and Wednesdays from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, very good. What's the most off-topic thing you've posted on Twitter recently?
Oh, goodness. Off topic. Like, what are we considering off topic here? Are we considering my kid post off topic? Because at this point, I don't feel like they're off topic.
I guess if I was following you for Magic and I see anything non-Magic, that's what I would count off topic.
Okay, yeah. My child figured out how to open the safety gate to the basement. So I just took a video of him doing that because he just kept opening it, walking down the stairs, walking back up, and reopening the gate. I'm just I give up. Whatever. I guess you can just freely walk down the stairs now because gate's doing nothing.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's clearly a sign of intelligence because I'm sure those are designed not to be opened until you're 13 years old or something, right?
I'm not sure they're designed to be open when you're 30 years old.
Oh, the youth, they surpass us so quickly.
Yeah, kids and their technology, they just figure it out. Actually, I don't really let my son use my cell phone at all, so yeah. I'm worried that he's going to fall behind, because isn't it a thing that 2-year-olds could use their parents' cell phones?
Yeah. I don't have any kids, but personally for myself, I think that there is a certain time that they're too young for this stuff, for this technology and just staring at a screen and so forth. So count me on the side that I'm on your side. He doesn't need a cell phone just yet. Let him be a kid.
Yeah. I'll do some, he's played by Nintendo Switch a little bit. He's figured out how to make Kirby fly, not move in any direction, not attacking anybody, but he makes Kirby fly. So, we're improving, but that's not a main part of his week or day, just an on occasion thing. He also likes running around Animal Crossing.
Yeah. Well, that's like half of Animal Crossing, isn't it? Just walking from here to there.
Yeah. He actually, one thing that we did was, I took him through the aquarium in Animal Crossing. Since, can't go to the real aquarium.
Yeah.
Let's look at the sharks, the Animal Crossing aquarium.
Did you hear how Elijah Wood dropped by people's Animal Crossing to buy turnips?
I did see. I saw some of those posts. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Animal Crossing bringing you closer to celebrities. How are you doing? Doing anything productive today?
Just trying to get some stuff done around the house. Thinking about redecorating my living room right now. So, been doing some research on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I bet as a Magic player, as a Magic brewer, you've got so many possibilities to do with that redecorating, I bet.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm trying to find this balance between I want my nerdiness to show through my living room while also a random person can walk in and not be like, this person's a little weird.
Yes. Well, nowadays that this fun nerd stuff has populated pop culture so much, it's less weird than before that I have a lamp that is shaped like Mario.
Oh, nice. I was actually just looking at some carved out dice to put on a coffee table.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just so many ways to personalize our abode, so we've got that going on. Well, how about in general? How have you and your family been coping with our world as it is at the moment? Do you have any positive thoughts, any advice to give on living in the year 2020?
It's been an adventure. I don't think you realize how much you miss those connections of talking to people until you're stuck. And your main points of contact are your spouse and your 2-year-old. Mm-hmm. But one thing I've been working on getting more consistent with working out and cooking and eating rate, especially these past couple weeks. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping that's something that comes out of this. I come out with better habits and just more structure in my life.
For sure, I think I'm the same way in terms of it was hard in the beginning for me because I'm a teacher, and it was hard to differentiate schoolwork with home life because it's all at home. We're doing it all through Zoom meetings, and I know how to do it. I know how to handle Zoom meetings and do online classes and such. But that was when I could also, back in the old days, go to my office on campus to get that work done. And then now I can't go to campus. I've got to do it all here at home. So I had to differentiate time and physical spaces for, okay, here's where I'll sit to do my fun stuff, and here's where I'll sit to do my work, because when I was trying to combine the two, I wasn't getting my work done.
Oh, I hear that. Or, you can even have the opposite, where your work starts bleeding into your normal life too much, where you find yourself like, oh, I'm just going to pick this up for work really quick. I have like a little bit of time. And then you just you didn't give yourself a break during the week when you really needed it.
Yeah. So I think people giving time for themselves, delineating time, I think everyone will benefit from that, and hopefully they'll carry that as a good habit into the future.
Agreed.
So here's one more sort of getting started question. Have you been able to pick up any physical Magic cards at all since this year has been going on?
So it's funny. My very last event that I played was Magic Fest Reno. Mm-hmm. So that had to be like the week of when all of this was hitting. Mm-hmm. I think that was when they were first starting about talking canceling European Magic Fest and all that. So that was really interesting because there's also this paranoia coming back home and being like, oh wow, I just flew through San Francisco, and San Francisco all of a sudden is this hot spot.
Yeah.
And so I did get to play physical cards there because that was Theros Beyond Death Limited, and I also got to pick up some oh my goodness, what is the mystery booster draft.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I did one of those there, and I've actually done a couple of those there, or I did one there, and I did another at DreamHack Anaheim. Mm-hmm. And so those were a lot of fun. So I'm actually really happy that I got a couple of events in before everything got crazy.
Yeah.
But I did pick up a booster box of Ikoria. Mm-hmm. And just to support my, my LGS, and picked up a couple pre-release kits, and my husband and I played a pre-release against each other. Not the same.
Yeah, not as the same as a whole group of people and jumping from different table to table. You had to just play one opponent that you beat over and over, I'm sure.
No, he's pretty lucky. He's lucky and skilled. It doesn't really work out.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. I went to the Theros Beyond Death one as well. That was the last in-person event that I did, and I did very, very well. I came in 8th place out of an 8-person draft, so that'll go on my tombstone.
Oh, you just have to say you were top 8.
Oh, yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah, exactly. I was in the top 8, yeah. Now you've totally lifted my spirits after remembering that I didn't do so well. And then after that, nothing else in person. And I did pick up boxes of Core 21, a box of Core 21 from my local shop. They never got their pre-release packs. Apparently, I kept asking the week that they were supposed to be out and the week after, and I think even the week after that. So I don't know what happened over here with them, but they never got their allocation. So I wasn't able to get one of those, but I did get a box, and I forgot what I pulled, but they're going. A lot of them are going in my notebook of collection because I usually like to try to get a box and see how many I can collect of the whole set. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but if you ever get boxes, does it feel like the recent sets, they collate them in a certain way, differently? I remember I would used to get a box and I would get more duplicates of rares, and now it feels like that you only get that one rare in that whole box because they really collate them in a new way.
I do remember getting duplicates in the past when I opened up boxes, and I don't know that I can honestly say on this because we've actually only opened up half of our Ikoria box. Mm. I just lost the motivation to keep opening it. I don't know how that happens where you just don't want to keep cracking boosters, but
yeah.
I don't know. I figured we would pie gow with the packs on another day, and it hasn't happened yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, they'll be there when in the future when these coronavirus sets spike in value when we start playing them again. Now that we maybe we buy a box of Ultimate Masters, but who are we going to play them with? There's so many times I can play at home, and it looks like these newer sets are going to have lower amounts of them being opened by people.
Yeah, draft plays such a big role in people getting cards and sealed Magic Fest and all that. That's why, like, I know in the past when there was like the sets that had like the shorter print run, I think what was it, Innistrad, and then the next set was
Dark Ascension.
Yes, that one. I think cards in that set were actually like pretty valuable just because of such a short time period to draft it, and just not as many boxes were opened. And I do remember that being a thing back when I was playing a whole lot and like actually like really worried about card values.
Yeah. Oh, how the world has changed.
Yep.
Well, final question before we get into some cards. How has your life been on Arena? How have you had your successes or not as successful times on Arena recently?
I hit top 1,200 Mythic at the end of the month in June. So that was pretty cool. A little stressful. I had hit Mythic throughout the spring and, kept trying to get that top 1,200, but, I'm playing under 100 matches. Like, I'm really not even close. Like, I think 1 month I was at like 60 matches of Magic, where I hit Mythic. And then, I had a really high win rate, obviously, to get to Mythic in that number of matches, but just couldn't push myself into the top 1,200 with that.
Yeah.
Because of however the rankings were. But got there in June, so that was nice, but I did play a little bit more in June. So
I definitely see a higher caliber of players, I guess, now also that we've got more Mac people playing. I just see so many good people on the ladder all of the time. And do you usually go for a best of 1 or best of 3?
I am typically a best of 3 player. Obviously, when I do climb to Mythic and Limited, it's best of 1.
Yeah.
Out of necessity, because we don't have that option for best of 3.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been actually dabbling in best of 1 this past week. There's been a couple decks out there that I thought were interesting, so I decided to give them a shot and just see how it goes. But, I joke that I'm not very good at best of 1 because I never win my game once of Magic.
I hear you as well, because when Magic Arena first started, it was just always best of 1, and I always had the nagging sensation, like, if I could have only have sideboarded to my amazing strategy. And then after we got the best of 3, that's all I pretty much play, except for, of course, Limited, where it's just best of 1. And I'm surprised that we don't get the climb the ladder best of 3 mode, but I guess as Magic players, we just want everything.
Oh yeah, why can't we have it all?
Yeah.
Honestly, where would we be if we didn't have something to complain about on Twitter?
Well, then we would feel good in terms of, well, we complained about it and we got it eventually, so pat on the back, I guess.
True. Yeah, it's actually funny. I was really, when I first started, pick back up Magic with Arena, a year and a half ago now, I guess. When it was only best of 1, and they did add the best 3, I was actually super nervous to get back into best of 3, because I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I sideboard? How do I remember what to bring in? Like, I know I did this before, but I just, like, this concept to me is just, like, wild right now. So I actually, hung on to best of 1 for a little bit longer.
Yeah. People commentate that it's like best of 1 is almost its own format, because you're not going to have that sideboard, so you've got to bring a great deck to have the RNG help you on just the best of 1. But for myself, I've always liked the best of 3, and I hope they do add the best of 3 for Limited, for the ladder, because for me, that's what the main Magic is for myself.
Yeah, it's honestly kind of wild just how it does it. It's even different for Limited, how you build a deck for best of 1 versus best of 3.
Yeah.
Like, I know M21, I believe if you're in best of 1, it just tends to be a little bit more aggressive, and best of 3 you can get away with being less aggressive, because you can have a plan for those aggressive decks easier.
So there's just many ways to play for everyone's favorite way to play. That reminds me, one more thing. On Arena, there's that one mode. I believe it's called I don't have Arena open at the moment, but it's called like Standard Event. What's it called? That one mode that costs like 500 gold? You know, one of those modes
Yes.
that's like forgotten, or I forgotten by me, but like, you know what I'm talking about? There's like two modes that cost like 1,000 gold, and they just pay you back in gold. And there's another one that costs, I think, maybe 500, and it just pays you back in gold as well. Any thoughts on those sorts of modes? Like, why are they still around? Do you ever play them, or am I just the only one that doesn't play those modes?
They're not for me, but I think there are a lot of people who crave competition but don't like ladder.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to play those modes maybe kind of gives you that like competitive, like, oh, I'm gonna try to get this many wins, type aspect, rather
Mm-hmm.
than like ladder where it's like, oh hey, I like won 7 games tonight and lost 6, so I'm like basically made no progress.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think about it that way. I would have just thought competitive means the latter. But I guess that makes a good sense as well. Like, okay, here is you've got up to 7 wins. Can you do the 7 wins? And then you'll feel that you've made progress and not lost enough that you're back to square one.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, last thing that I just thought of. What do you think about all of the recent bans?
Well, first off, rip Agent of Treachery and Fires of Invention. They were very near and dear to my heart. I
Hmm.
had to relearn how to play Magic after that happened.
Were you using the agent slash Thassa combo?
No, I was not on that. So for a long time, I was playing just Guy Fires. So the
Hmm.
Cavaliers, Teferi, Fires, all that nonsense. And,
Yeah.
had a really good grasp of the deck, did pretty well with it. And then that deck became bad for some reason.
Hmm.
And so then the Just Guy Luca Yorion blah 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 deck
Yeah.
became a thing.
Hmm.
Um, and like I was really apprehensive to pick that up, and then like I picked it up and it just clicked with me, and I did very 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 well with it,
No.
and just kind of understood the deck very well. So yeah, I was sad to see that go.
Did you pick up that Yorion deck before or after the change to the companion rule?
That was before, because the change to the companion rule also came with the ban of Agent of Treachery.
Okay.
Um, but I was still playing Bant Yorion after the change in companion rule. I obviously like you now have to pay 3 mana to get Yorion into your hand, but it definitely impacted that style deck a lot less than it impacted like a cycling deck, that wanted Luris, but
Yeah.
you're essentially taking off an entire turn to go get your Luris.
Yeah. I was playing the Lyris deck here and there, and I liked it, and I definitely had to readjust myself that no, I can't bring Lyris right to the battlefield to start to get that stuff out of the graveyard anymore. I've got to take that turn if I'm trying to do it on curve. Or I guess even with like Yorion, okay, yeah, you pay 3, but it's that deck is much more for the longer term. So okay, you pay 3, and then you'll eventually cast it and get the good stuff out of it. So it wasn't so bad. It looks like some
Yep.
companions suffered more than others.
Yep. So then the most recent bans were Wilderness Reclamation, Teferi, Growth Spiral, and Cauldron Familiar.
Yeah.
I'm actually like kind of sad to see Teferi go, and I know I sound kind of like a villain saying that, um, but it's a card that I enjoyed playing. I think I made the joke on Twitter like, "Oh hey, I was finally remembering Teferi's static ability,"
Yeah.
and now we're doing it. But I like playing that card, but I do agree, like that was definitely a card that like, you would look at a preview card from a set and just be like, oh, this card seems sweet, but Teferi, not that good,
Hmm.
and Growth Spiral was just, you get to draw a card, you get a ramp, and that was making games feel over like very very early on, and that doesn't feel good to play against. Wilderness Reclamation is near and dear to my heart. My first deck that I made, actually my second deck that I made Mythic with, my first deck was like a budget like blue-red build when I was very first starting. But my second deck was this Bant Flash deck, so I was actually playing Wilderness Reclamation in that to, be able to like tap up for a Hydroid Crisis and then untap to like hold up Angel or hold up Frilled Mystic or something. And I had played a fair amount of Teamer Reclamation at that point, so another one that was sad to see go, but I do agree that it needs to go. And yeah, I think like Judsack would have 100% just taken over if they had a ban cat. So I really think they were in the right place with the bans. I think maybe they could have considered like Clover too, but I'm not totally convinced that's like super overpowered. But that deck does have some pretty obnoxious starts to it sometimes.
Lucky Clover with a lot of adventure stuff happening.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. I play people with a Clover, whatever. Is that a turn 1 play or a turn 2 play? I would often see the Clover plus the Innkeeper, and then they just they have their engine very early on.
Yeah, I think the dream is like turn 1 Innkeeper, turn 2 Clover.
Oh yeah.
Turn 3, the Creature's Beanstalk Giant. I don't remember the name of the adventure on it, but you go if you have a Clover in play, and you duplicate that adventure, you get to go grab 2 lands and put them to play untapped. Yeah. Which is very reasonable, 5 mana on turn 3.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the big sticking point of modern Magic, of standard Magic, that there's just a lot of fast mana. There's just a lot of ramp. There's a lot of cheating mana. Fires of Invention was the big boogeyman in its time of getting all of this free mana. You can only cast 2 spells, but it's 2 free spells if you've got the mana. And then we've got Wilderness Wreck that I like that one a lot too. I was playing a Temur Reclamation. I was playing Autumn Burchett's Temur Rec for a long time, and that got me up to my levels. I haven't gotten to Mythic yet, but I've gotten to Diamond. That one was, I'm going to miss that one. And I have a mono black Devotion deck that I enjoyed, and of course Cat and Oven were in there, so that's gone. And so my 2 big decks are getting changed up. But yeah, I think it's good to change things up, because I think people were maybe complaining a little bit more than usual that we might need some bans.
Oh, for sure. It didn't feel quite as bad as Oko.
Oh yeah.
Did, but yeah, I don't think it was fun, because I think it was very, very much Temur Rec just felt like the most well-rounded deck, and also it's just it's such a frustrating deck to play against too. And I think when you're just seeing the sheer number of decks that just rely on these combos, that can just be very frustrating to go up against.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what new decks are starting to pop up as time goes on. People are saying it feels like a brand new Standard. I know that a lot of people were going over to Historic on Arena when they thought that Standard was stale, but we'll see. There's just more ways to play more Magic.
See, they went to Historic, and then they still found Temur Reclamation.
Yeah. Or maybe Winota was around there as well.
Yeah, Winota was banned a little while ago, though. In Historic, I believe.
Yeah, that was one of the ones that I think there was an announcement of changes to Historic, and she wasn't included. But then on the next announcement, she was. So they. But isn't there also the weird limbo of suspension and then banning?
Yeah, I think Historic, they're trying to keep it a little bit more fluid. So they're just choosing to use this terminology of suspended, we may reverse this decision if we see things that are different. So, I think you could go along with the, hey, we're banning this card, but just know that our bans may be fluid. But I guess more terminology to try to convey a point is fine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for indulging me on those topics. Let's talk a little bit about cards in some of the recent sets that came out. We've got our list of cards that we're enjoying for various reasons. Why don't you start us off and tell us your card or your combos?
Okay, so in M21, I kind of picked a group of cards that I really, really, really enjoyed, especially when M21 first came out and Standard was everyone was trying to do I'm going to do something fun and not just play Temur Rec.
Yes.
So I was playing a deck that was called Paw Blade that, I'd seen on Twitter. I know Autumn had played it on stream. So, and they had a lot of success with it. So 3 cards from M21 that were included in this deck were Alpine Houndmaster, Igneous Cur, and Alpine Watchdog. And so I actually just had a lot of fun playing that deck. It was an aggressive deck, but kind of had this combo element to it that there's actually a lot of play to it. It wasn't just turn your creatures sideways. I ended up in a lot of really interesting games with the deck, and I found that interaction, with the Houndmaster, and you get to go grab 2 creatures. It's called Paw Blade because that's the joke of it's playing on the name of Cobblade, which was a deck back in is that 2011, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
where you had Squadron Hawk, which could go and find your other Squadron Hawks. So, similar idea. You have a card that gets you card advantage.
Mm-hmm. Now, I wasn't playing back in the original Caw-Blade, but I hear the legend of it that was a great deck. What was the Blade part of it?
So that was, I think it was Sword of Feast and Famine was very popular, and I believe there's another sword that was often played in the deck, and I can't think of it off the top of my head. But yeah, essentially you had Squadron Hawks that usually equipped a sword too, and then like Stoneforge Mystic was in the deck, and 4-mana Jace the Mind Sculptor was in the deck, and I think you played like 5-mana Gideon. I preferred the Darkblade version of the deck where you played Inquisition of Kozilek, because I liked having full information in the game. Like if I know what's in my opponent's hand, I might play a little bit better. So like, yeah, I know the one version, Manlands were in the format at the time, so I'm blanking on the name. The blue-white Manland was played in the blue-white version, and then when I played like Darkblade, there was the Creeping Tar Pit that was played as the Manland. So
now in this modern Paw-Blade, is it simply that people wanted to latch on to a cool name? Because it does the Alpine Huntmaster does what the bird did by getting more of their squad, but is there other things that also are sort of like Caw-Blade-ish?
I don't like, not so much, because you don't really have like this planeswalker control side of it, and you don't have this equipment. Or was there equipment in the deck? I did play Embercleave, so like Embercleave kind of was like the blade part of it. I guess, but you don't have planeswalker in this version, so it does play a little bit differently. You can't go search up your Embercleave with a Stoneforge Mystic like you could in this other version. But you do have the powerful combination of, you have Winota. So Alpine Houndmaster is a human, but the two creatures that it searches up are both dogs. So, and Winota triggers off non-human creatures, so, when you're tracking with these, and then, you also play the Selfless Savior, which is also a dog, and that can protect give a creature indestructible until end of turn. And then you just find a whole bunch of humans, so you might hit an Alpine Houndmaster off of that, so then you get to put more cards in your hand off this attack, and it can spiral out of control really fast.
I do remember playing people against that deck, and when they got that combo working, it worked very well. And it's not even that hard to assemble. It's very low mana cost, very aggressive creatures, and they're not legendary, so you can have the 4 ofs and then really guarantee the combo coming together.
Yep, exactly. And then and what's fun is like, sometimes you land that Winota and you don't have good attacks, but you just attack with all those non-humans anyways, because
you want those triggers.
You get those triggers, hopefully, unless luck is not on your side. You get those triggers. I have missed 4 triggers in a row before. I felt like that took an extreme amount of skill to have that happen.
Yeah. When you whiff on some of these things that you expect will work, it's something else.
Yeah, 1 whiff, okay, 2 whiffs, a little unlucky, but fine. You get to the 3rd one, it's like, did that really happen? And then the 4th is like, okay, I feel like I should be really tilted about this, but it's actually just kind of funny.
Yeah. That's a pretty cool set of cards there. Mine's a little simpler in Core 21. My pick is Ugin the Spirit Dragon. So I never played during Fate Reforged when this card was originally out. It was slightly before when I got back into Magic, but I would always hear people talking about what an amazing card that was, and I've gotten to play it in my various decks. It's obviously 8 mana, so you have to. This card is good as if you get it in the later game when you've got 8 mana, it does amazing things, or if you can ramp into it even faster than your opponent, it does amazing things. And so, 7 loyalty, +2, deals 3 damage to any target, -X, exile each permanent with CMC of X or less, that's 1 or more colors, so it doesn't hit artifacts and lands, or -10, you gain 7 life, draw 7 cards, and put up to 7 permanents from your hand to the battlefield. So you get a lot for that 8 mana. Any thoughts on Ugin if you did manage to play that back in the day or recently?
I can tell you, when I was playing Paw-Blade, there were multiple times that I just snap conceded the minute I saw the Ugin cast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can really it can just swing the game very, very quickly and just make it near impossible to come back.
Yeah.
I've noticed it's been like a little less popular, but I can see it. It's an extremely strong card, and I think it's going to have like a spot in standard for the foreseeable future.
Mm-hmm. Definitely in limited, it's GG right away. In standard, there could be some answers for it, of course, but Elder, what is it? The Elder spell, right? Two black mana, kill any planeswalker.
Correct.
But even that, if the person is minus Xing your whole board, that's pretty oppressive. So I've tried to play with this one for fun in historic, actually. I've got a deck that's mono white, and it's basically a lot of ramp. So they've got Mind Stone and what else? Like every mana rock to some degree. There's also the mirror. What's that one mirror that gives you two colorless? Palladium? Yeah, Palladium mirror. So it's just a bunch of mana rocks. It's Palladium mirror, it's Mind Stone, etc. And I'm trying to, as soon as possible, ramp out to Little Ugin, the 6 mana one. And then that one gives a cost reduction to colorless things, so it's going to reduce the cost of these artifacts, and also reduce the cost of Big Ugin. And guess what? I've also got Ulamog in there. So there's no interaction in terms of in that deck. I'm just trying to ramp as fast as possible to some big stuff. If necessary, I do have Shatter the Sky, but my ultimate is trying to just get so much mana as fast as possible to these like really huge colorless creatures. And I've gotten to various points where the opponent's gotten me down to 5 life, 2 life, whatever, and then I start to get Ugin out and such, and then they concede as well because it's such an oppressive card, especially that fast.
Nice. Yeah, it's nice to cast your big threat and just opponents be like, okay, yeah, done with this game. We're good. We're done here. Mm-hmm. So, how do you feel about Tron and Modern?
I don't play a lot of Modern, and when it's been played against me, not great, but if I'm playing it, yeah, I'm alright with it. What about yourself?
Actually, it's like the only Modern deck that I've played competitively in the last 5 years. Mm-hmm. Not saying much there. But yeah, no, I just brought it up because, Ulamog and Ugin, those are kind of...
Exactly. That's what that's built for. You want that 7 mana as soon as possible, get to those big things. And even on Arena, in Historic, when we don't have the Tron lands, I do feel I've been able to ramp to them pretty well. I used to have I was playing with a mono green one where I was trying to put in a bunch of Cultivates and Grow from the Ashes, kicked for 5. And that, I played so many times where I basically drew every land. I had 24 lands in the deck. I drew every land in the deck, and it was just about a matter of time about, okay, let me get my Little Ugin or my Big Ugin or my Ulamog. That one, though, felt that you could get really aggroed out because it was just about creating mana. But the mono white, I've got the Shatter the Sky and what else? What other board wipes? So a couple of board wipes in there to get rid of their creatures, and that one seems to work a little better, more consistently.
Yeah.
And then maybe thinking about putting together some sort of Brawl with Ugin deck as well. But because it is a colorless commander, you do have a lot of restrictions there in terms of building. You got to rely on mana rocks and no other real spells.
Yeah, I see that being quite limiting. Maybe just Ugin in the deck, not necessarily as a commander.
Yeah.
Although there's a lot of cute things that you can do with colorless and artifacts. So.
Yeah, there's that, I think, Shambling Suit. It gets bigger the more artifacts you have, and then you've got that one key that untaps your artifacts. In Historic, you've also got, what's that one? Traxos of Krug, that 7/7 for 4 mana. So yeah, I think you can do some fun stuff in a colorless build. All right, what do you have next?
So, kind of 2 cards I was going to talk about in conjunction, and those are Terror of the Peaks and Elder Gargaroth.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked these 2 in conjunction because I think these were 2 cards we didn't see a whole lot of play with before the bans happened. But, now maybe with Teferi out of the picture and stuff, these cards are something that could be very relevant. I know first off, Terror of the Peaks, the first time I saw this card, I think I saw a preview. I'm like, wow, that card's really good. And then like I did the early access event, and I like the first deck I played against was somebody sealed pool who had this. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awful.
Yeah.
So it was as good as I expected. But you know, now it's kind of finding this home, and I think there were some brews out there prior to the bands that were playing this list, but you have elementals now that plays Genesis Ultimatum, so you can, you know, if you Genesis Ultimatum and hit like Terror of the Peaks and like you know, a bunch of other stuff, you can get like a lot of triggers off that, which is pretty sick. And Elder Gargaroth is, I know that was like a sideboard card in Mono Green, but Mono Green kind of died off because Temur Reclamation adjusted to the deck very, very quickly. And but I mean, that card's like kind of, it's 5 mana, 6/6.
In short, it's got a huge wall of text and it's all good.
Yeah, Vigilance, Rage, Trample, whenever it attacks or blocks, it's a green card. Of course, it has a huge wall of text. Yeah. That's how you know it's a good green card. Yeah. Do you remember every single thing on the card? No? Probably a good green card. Yes. So yeah, Vigilance, Reach, Trample, and when it attacks or blocks, you get to choose one, and that's create a 3/3 beast, gain 3 life, or draw a card.
Yeah.
So obviously this is like awesome card against mono red. You know, really it's a nice card to have against a lot of decks, because like, you know, drawing card can be like very relevant in a lot of spots, you know, especially maybe like a mono green type mirror where you're trying to just get more threats than your opponent. You know, like had the Great Henge cast against me quite often in the mono green mirror, and that's very frustrating to play against, you know, when they're getting all that card advantage. So that's kind of a card that helps with this. And, you know, create 3/3 beast, like if you just need to go wider at that point too. It doesn't matter how big or good the creature is. So yeah, I think those are just like, they're both 5-drops, you know, they're both mythics, you know, and I think there are cards that were printed, you know, with the intention of like, you know, these are cards that should be playable in standard and like very good. You know, maybe we're like a little bit inhibited by cards like Teferi prior to this, or, you know, too slow and clunky against something like Temur Rec. Yeah. And although I think Temur Rec even put this in the sideboard. So yeah, that's, I think they're very good cards. I think they're like cool design. They're pretty unique. And I mean, I guess the Terror of the Peaks isn't like that unique, because there's been like tons of like dragon type cards that do damage when like another dragon or something enters the battlefield. But I don't know. I just think they're interesting cards to have in standard, and I think they're going to have an impact on the format over the next year.
I definitely like them both, and I have been seeing people play that Terror of the Peaks, and it can get out of hand. I haven't seen a lot of people play the Gargaroth, but I don't doubt that it's going to start to take its place, because for only 5 mana, you just get so much. It's kind of crazy what green is at the moment. And when we thought, well, Questing Beast, 4 mana, and it's got Death Touch and Haste, and whoops, you didn't block it, so it also hits your Planeswalker. So this is long tradition of amazing green cards. Kind of like on the side note, the Vorthos aspect of things, I love the art on Terror of the Peaks more than the Gargaroth, because I still cannot tell what I'm looking at on the Gargaroth. It almost looks like it's just a bunch of trees. But I guess the Gargaroth is kind of looking to the left of the card, even though its body is pointing to the right, and I can't quite tell what I'm looking at. I just see a couple of cool little birds. But then the Terror of the Peaks definitely is an epic-looking card.
Yeah, I kind of think it looks like maybe like Tusk or something. But yeah, Terror of the Peaks, like if I saw that dragon, I'd be running, hiding.
I actually put together, I was also in the early access event, so shout out to Wizards of the Coast for having us both there. Please have us back in the future. One of the things that I built in the early access event was a dragon focused deck. I just wanted to put all the dragons there. Of course, I had the Terror in there, and it was pretty fun. That ETB effect about you summon your other big dragon, and it does that damage to the target, either the opponent or the creatures, or the planeswalker or whatever, and you can have the 4 of, so that'll get very out of hand very fast. And after the event, I brought the deck into my own arena account. I was missing my 700,000 gems, so I wasn't able to fully craft it as I wanted, but I started to build a Brawl deck out of it. And what I did was I actually put Gadrak as the Brawlmander of that, so that's the 3 mana dragon from Core 21 that it cannot attack unless you've got 4 artifacts. And when when a creature dies on you by the end of your turn, you make an artifact, so it eventually attacks, and it's a 5/4 flyer. But then I've got the Terror in there as one of these dragons that comes out, and the whole deck is pretty much dragons and some removal. And Sarkin is in there hanging out with the dragons, and it's a pretty fun deck. But when I played the Red Bull, one of the Red Bull tournaments recently, I forgot that you could have 4 terrors in one deck when you play in full standard.
Yeah, standard is in fact different than Brawl.
Yes.
Some different rules there.
Yeah. I was used to one format, and then we go to the other format, the bigger format, and 2 terrors of the peaks on the field. I don't think I'm going to make it. GG.
Yeah, that 2 Terror of the Peaks seems a little much to deal with.
Mm-hmm. What do you think in general that on the one hand, you can craft any card you want if you've got the wild cards, but on the other hand, you have to have the wild cards for them, and we can't dust for them, and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I was actually doing really well at wild cards, and now I'm still fine on wild cards, but it's kind of getting to that point I couldn't go absolutely crazy making a deck right now. Mm-hmm. Definitely the post bans, I've had to craft a lot more stuff. Pre-bans, It was easy because I was playing this Pavley deck that was just commons and uncommons, basically. And then, I was like, oh, okay, Team of Reclamation's the best deck. Guess I'm playing that now. I already have all these cards. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that they'll ever implement some sort of system where we can trade in the lower rarity wildcards for the higher ones? I don't know what the ratio would have to be, because I still see people that say, I've got 200 commons, I don't even know what I'm going to do with. I think I have 7 at the moment because I finished crafting some things, and I think I've got 1 mythic rare. But do you think they'll ever implement that? Trades or whatever for your wilds?
I lean towards no, because I think they have this economy set up the way that they think it's going to work, and I could see something like that possibly being a disruption to the economy, but maybe they figure out a way to make it work that their model is still profitable, but players have this more flexibility in this sort of way. It still probably comes with complaints on oh well, why is this event more expensive now, or something like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, who knows? I think anything's possible. I don't think it's super likely. I've noticed I don't carry a whole lot of uncommon and common wild cards. Every set I try to craft a whole bunch of commons and uncommons I think I might play before I draft or anything, because I think it technically fills your vault faster that way. So then I'm going to get more rare mythic wild cards later on. And you end up with so many of them. It's just nice to get the commons and uncommons out of the way. But I still try to hang on to 40 of each of those, just in case I'm going to play this deck that's playing this card that I never imagined I was ever going to play in a competitive format, but here we are.
Yeah, so exactly. On the one hand, as long as you've got the wild cards, you've got any card you want, but you've got to have wild cards and however you get them. But it's an interesting economy. This is the only digital game that I play. I never played League of Legends. I never played Runeterra. I never played any of those, and I know each one has its own thing. And I'm just so used to Magic, so I'm used to it that this is how the economy works, and it would be nice that we can dust them or whatever. But we'll see. It seems to work fine for them, and I also kind of feel I don't think they're going to change it, unfortunately. But this is what we have, and it's my favorite game, so I can live with it.
Yeah, I've played both Eternal and Hearthstone, and I think both of those are essentially dusting systems. Mm-hmm. If I'm correct.
I think so. I think that's where I first heard about dusting in Hearthstone.
Yeah, although Hearthstone, I've always been just frustrated, trying to build decks in there, because I feel when I pick it up, out of nowhere, I'll have a decent amount of dust collected, and I still can't get anywhere with a new deck because it's so every deck I want to play plays 10 legendaries or something stupid, and those all cost I can craft 2 of them with how much dust I have or something. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I feel the arena economy has worked out better for me, but I've also stayed a consistent active player for the most part. Other than like I mentioned, when I made Mythic a couple of months, I wasn't playing a whole lot of matches, so I actually like wasn't completing like all my daily quests and everything. Um, so like those were months where I didn't complete my mastery pass, and I maybe fell behind on like how much gold I'd be collecting. But for the most part, I feel like I've been able to keep up fairly well, just by continuously making sure I do my quests. But I should also add in, I'm a fairly good drafter too,
Yeah.
so I usually come out ahead on those. So that's also been helpful, and also that helps build my collection and makes it so I need to use less wild cards.
Yeah, I think people don't realize that if you go into drafts, that could pay for itself a lot better than just going with the dailies, because I usually try to get those dailies, and I do the draft at least once a week, and it does pay for itself as you play draft more and get better at it and learn the format, and I think that's a good way to progress.
Yeah, but the cost of like trying to create your collection through draft is time. Like it takes time to go about it that way. So if you're someone who just wants to pick up and play a constructed match every once in a while, yeah, I feel for you and can see how that system is rough.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about some Jumpstart cards. Those are cards that we can play on Arena if we go over to Historic, and we got a huge boatload of new cards, a huge new infusion of cards into Arena. So first of all, though, what do you think about, in general, the Historic format on Arena?
Played a ton of it. Stream the other night did convince me to play Goblins, and apparently I don't cast turn 3 Muxus enough. And Muxus was a card that came out of Jumpstart. So, yeah, like, I think Historic's really cool. My baby Field of the Dead is not banned in Historic, which, does make me want to play a little bit more. But, yeah, I've only dabbled in it. I haven't gotten real deep into Historic yet.
I've been playing that Goblin deck, and it is pretty fun. I think there's a few different builds of it, and it's kind of cool that, okay, this is like the top end, this is the end result, but you can put a lot of other goblins in there, like some Goblin Matron to tutor for it, and Goblin War Leader to give them haste and cost reduction. So I've had people where they've been controlling things pretty well. I'm getting down in life total, but I'm getting my pieces together where I've got that War Leader or the other Goblin that gives it haste. And then Muxus comes out, and suddenly 6 Goblins hit the field, and even more stuff happens, and then Muxus is attacking as a 12-12, and the opponent concedes. That's the way you play Magic.
Yeah, Muxus is attacking as 12-12, and you have also 8 other Goblins that are all pumped.
Yeah.
Because Kranko is a fair card, too. Or Conspicuous Snoop is temporarily a Kranko.
Exactly. That's been a lot of fun, having that Conspicuous Snoop out, and Kranko's on top of the library, and the Snoop doesn't have Summon Sickness, and then suddenly you make a bunch of goblins. So it's definitely a fast-paced aggro sort of deck in Historic. There's an Embercleave in there, and I almost never cast the Embercleave because the goblins on their own do their thing.
Yeah, I've not played the version with Embercleave. But yeah, it's an interesting deck, and I don't, rarely have I played it like an aggro deck. Usually just because my 1/1s you typically don't attack well into whatever my opponent's doing initially, so I kind of need to get that wide, go big board. But there is that attack plan outside of the combo where you don't have to just go crazy on a Kranko. Sometimes you just get there with pumping some goblins and clearing your opponent's board away if they're not quick enough to kill you.
Yeah, and that Skirk Prospector has been an all-star in there. That's speaking again about fast mana and cheating mana. That Skirk Prospector is simply one red mana, you get a 1/1, but then sacrifice goblins to make more red mana. So I've done things. I've summoned Muxus based on 3 lands because with these other goblins as fodder, and the cost reduction of the War Leader, you can take out a 6/6 on turn 3 in a red deck. You would usually expect something like that in a green deck, but you can do it in red if you go all in with goblins.
Yep, turn 3 Muxus is very fair.
Yes. No hint of sarcasm. All right, what's another pick that you like in Jumpstart?
Specifically, I think the lands in Jumpstart are quite swell. And I know these are like kind of high early to get, but I think it's really cool just to see a neat artwork that's not just the full art. You know, it's like more of a traditional land style, but it kind of has like a cool art style to it, and I think they're pretty sweet. Definitely motivates me to play a little bit more. Jumpstart's kind of my, I just need a break from what I'm doing. Like, let's just do a Jumpstart real quick. But I have gotten the swamps because I got the Liliana deck.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I will probably still end up with just the swamps, but I'm really happy that they brought out like another cool land style that was a little different than what they've been doing.
Yeah, speaking of which, I liked those new showcase lands in my box of real life box of Corset 21. I got a few of them, and they're very striking in real life. I think my favorite one is Chandra's land. I kind of really like that red, or I kind of really like the fire at the bottom because it feels like it's almost burning the card itself. I love playing, of course, black focus decks, but I kind of like Chandra's land the best of all, and maybe Teferi in second, and then the next three tied for third place. I really like them. So out of all of the lands, which one do you think? How would you rank them?
Well, clearly Swamp is the best since that's the only one I have. And then next is Islands because I like playing Islands. And then we're gonna go with Plains because that's probably gonna make the next most often. And then probably we're gonna go with a tie between Mountains and Forest. I know that was like some very scientific ways of determining that, but
yeah. Well, cool. The Jumpstart is like, I like what you said about the variety of lands in Jumpstart. Even if you're not getting like these big showcase ones, like I got that one dog plains with a little dog hanging out in a meadow. Have you seen that one yet?
I've probably seen it. Can't picture it off the top of my head, but yeah. Is there a cat one that's similar? Because I've played the cats.
I think so. I think the cat has some sort of cat theme. The one that I got recently from a Jumpstart event was that dog one, so that's why it's right in my mind. But I thought they did really. I thought it was a really good idea to like theme these lands per the booster pack that you get. So some of those mountains have looked really beautiful as well. And there's that one swamp that has like a weird skeleton hand holding, I don't know, like evil water or something. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Oh yeah, that one's super creepy. I think I had discarding yesterday. That's in discarding. But yeah, like the dinosaurs with like the little dinosaur in it, and I had the dog one pulled up too. I think the angel lands are pretty cool too, if I remember correctly. Oh, I just looked at the devilish mountain is that's intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the cat does have a cat on it, so that's pretty legit. But yeah, the angels, they're like the planes, but it's like angel feathers.
Oh, okay, yeah, I remember that one.
It's pretty cool looking.
Mm-hmm. I think most of them are very cool, very on brand. There's maybe one or two that I can't remember at the moment that I saw it and I didn't fully love it, but I thought that was a very creative way to kind of bling out your deck on Arena or in real life. But it's cool to put in one of these new styles of lands when you're battling someone, and then you hover over their lands and like, wow, I haven't seen that land. Very cool.
Yeah, it's another way to kind of add, like some personality things into your deck on Arena along with like sleeves, which is, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite sleeve that you've been using in Arena?
So my husband played the Regional Pro Tour, and they got a special code for sleeves. So he just gave it to me because he wasn't going to use it. And so I've been rocking that one. And that's the, I think it's the Path to Exile art from the Magic Fest promos.
Oh, okay.
So it's pretty cool. I don't know. I kind of like running sleeves that are kind of like a flex.
Well, then you're gonna love the. Did you get your Mythic Championship sleeves when that was going on at the beginning of the year?
The MC5 or
whichever one it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I got. Well, I don't think they gave out sleeves specifically for the Mythic Championship. I think they just gave them out for if you played in the qualifiers.
Mm-hmm.
So I got those.
That's definitely a flex.
Yeah. Those are also fun. Yeah, I used to do that all the time. Like I would just like put those sleeves on, just flex with those.
And I'm over here flexing with my OMG Kitties sleeve from the first Secret Lair drop.
Okay. Hey, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I did when I bought my box of Core 21 at Star City Games, and then I got an email saying, thanks for purchasing, and here's a code for a sleeve. And the sleeve was actually I think the Mana, what is it, Mana Vault? What's that one that was not reprinted in the new one, but on a previous one? It was Mana Vault, Mana Crypt, one of them. So I don't see very many people having that sleeve there. But actually, I just saw one yesterday. I don't know where this one came from, but it was basically a Johnny, and he was kind of like dressed up like a character from X-Men or so. Have you seen that one?
I think those were like an F&M sleeve, because they've been doing like the F&M promos for Arena, like the F&M at home, and like I think some stores got like promo codes for that stuff. Oh. So I think that's what that might be from. I don't really keep track unless I see a sleeve that I really want, and then I'm like, how do I get that? Or a land that I really want, like, how do I get that? I need that now.
There's a lot of ways to personalize, even though they're not physical cards, so I'm glad for that. All right, let's talk about a few cards that are actually not on Arena, but that they're coming out brand new, so let's check them out.
Yeah, so, Double Masters, I believe, just released. So, also the set has had a lot of awesome reprints, a lot of really, really high-powered cards, I mentioned Cobblade before, so, you see Jason Stoneforge Mystic in the set, but one card I actually want to talk about was Dark Confidant. And so, like, I feel like anymore, this is just, like, a card that you expect to see reprinted in these types of sets, right? Like, it's a pretty popular card, it's like maintained pretty like high value, and people like to play it. So this is a card that I played in Modern Jund back in the day, like 2012 when Modern was pretty new at the time.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know this card, although I feel like it's like a staple of Magic, but I don't know, maybe it's Boomer Magic, right?
That's the new term.
Yeah, I'm a boomer, and I didn't know I was going to have to say that phrase. So it's 1 and a black, and it's a human wizard, and it's a 2/1. And at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. You lose life equal to its converted mana cost. So this was great in Modern Jund back in the day because you wanted a way to get card advantage, and you had things like Bloodbraid Elf, so you're cascading and like trying to kill your opponent fast, and if things went right, you're hitting a land off Dark Confidant and not Bloodbraid Elf. I think Bloodbraid Elf was like the most expensive thing in the deck, so like it wasn't super likely that you were going to kill yourself. But you also had like Noble Hierarch, and I think Deathrite Shaman was in the deck and stuff too. So a lot of low cost stuff that you were trying to grab, or hoping to reveal off that, if not a land. Zero mana is better than any other amount of mana in this situation. So drawing 2 cards a turn, sweet, right? Even if it comes at a cost sometimes. But I actually have both cards I picked for Double Masters. I actually have a story about. But so my first Pro Tour, I played Dark Confidant in a Abzan list that was was still very popular at the time, but this was an Abzan Dorn list. I thought it could fare fairly well against Jund, so I was excited to play it and play Dark Confidant. And I remember I kept this 2-land hand with Dark Confidant. Actually, I think I had 2 of them in my hand too, and it was like a fairly good hand. I'm like, okay, cool. So I just need to hit a land here, right?
Yeah.
So I remember I played out like a turn 2 Dark Confidant. Then like I reveal, like take damage, and then like draw for the turn. It's not a land, so I play out my second Dark Confidant. I'm like, okay, I'm definitely gonna hit my 3rd land drop here. My Dark Confidants killed me before I saw my 3rd land.
Oh, wow. Well, the flavor text is perfect. Greatness at any cost.
It was not greatness, and it was a very high cost.
That talk about we're talking about the randomness on Arena. That was obviously on paper, and so there's no excuse for any shuffler screwing us over, right?
Yeah, right. And clearly I'm not stacking my deck here because...
Oh, that's funny. So that was back in, like, at around what time period, you think?
that was Pro Tour Return to Ravnica. So that was like October 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, back in the day. Because Dark Covenant's originally in Ravnica, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you remember playing with it? Was that original art that?
Yes, I was definitely playing original arts on that.
Cool. What's the other card that you have that memory of?
So my second card that I picked was Force of Will. So I played like I think did Merfolk play this card? I think Merfolk played this card in Legacy. But it's funny because like this is for Legacy. I was never a big Legacy player. I never had a lot of Legacy cards. I didn't particularly enjoy playing Legacy because I never played it very often. And I feel like Legacy, like if you're a good player, you can go in and like understand like what's going on. But sometimes it helps to know that I should have countered that spell. That was relevant. And they're gonna get you like the first time with it every once in a while. But this was actually a card that I had a playset of in Legacy, and I actually had a playset of it, and I got the playset in a really funny way. So first, I'll tell you what the card is. So it's 3 and 2 blue, instant, and you pay 1 life and exile a blue card from your hand rather than... Okay, you may pay 1 life and exile a blue card from your hand rather than pay the spell's mana cost. And it's counter target spell. So 5 mana counter spell, but if you pay a life and exile a blue card, it's free.
Yeah.
So great in Legacy when everybody's trying to do stuff that's like not fair. So I at one point I owned none of this card, and I wasn't really a Legacy player, but I went to regionals in Kansas City one year, and I think I scrubbed out of regionals super early, and I was like super frustrated about it. I was walking around, there was like some vendor selling alliance packs, right? I don't remember how much they cost, but I was a college student, but like whatever. It was like cheap enough that I'm like, oh, I'll open an alliance pack. Like, let's just have some fun with this, right? Yeah. So I buy one, open it, Force of Will. I buy a second, open it, Force of Will.
Yeah.
So at this point, like, people are all like in the hallway, like hanging out, and like people find out like I opened 2 Force of Wills back to back, and then like I have this crowd around me, like watching me open the more packs than I did.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I opened up the 3rd one that day, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, and then I think I just like went out and bought my 4th.
Yeah.
Because I had to have a playset at that point,
exactly.
Right?
Yes. They'd be lonely if you didn't.
But yeah, gambling in like 2011 to open Force of Wills from alliance packs is
yeah.
That was a thing.
Well, that's a pretty cool story. I originally played back in the 90s, so I remember opening in the beginning alliances in the 90s. However, I never got any Force of Wills in the 90s from cracking my packs of alliances. It wasn't until I got back into Magic in 2017 that I went on eBay and I got a few packs there, and that's when I got my first Force of Will, even though I played with those cards back in the 90s, but it wasn't meant to be until 20 years later almost.
Yeah, maybe they just stashed them all away so like people 20 years in the future would be like, I opened a Force of Will.
Yeah. So I definitely like the new art on that one. I hope to crack one, and that's one of the very first pitch cards. I listen to Mark Rosewater's podcasts all the time, and he talks about the history of Magic and making Magic and the future of it and so forth. And there was an episode in there where he talked about these cards that everyone thought, this is going to break Magic. How could you not pay for a casting cost of a card? Magic is that you tapped your lands and you can't do anything more, and now this is going to break Magic. So it's still a big important card years later in many formats, and very, very iconic. So it's back with many more in Double Masters.
Yeah, and I know it was a very, very, very wanted reprint for a long time.
Yes, exactly. So the card that I'm picking for Double Masters is Kemba, Ka Regent. She is a legendary cat cleric for 3 mana, double white. It's a 2/4. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 2/2 white cat creature token for each equipment attached to Kemba, Ka Regent. And I picked this for a couple of reasons, because I like to build very tribal decks. focused on, this is a goblin deck, so it's all about goblins. This is a cat deck, so it's all about cats. So when I got back into Magic in 2017, one of the first decks that I built was a Selesnya cat deck. And I ended up actually then getting a couple of these Kemba Ka Regents because I wasn't playing Scars of Mirrodin. I wasn't playing Magic at the time when Scars of Mirrodin was out, so I never had this card. When I was researching and getting back into Magic, what are all the great cat cards that I can pick for a fun cat deck? This is one that I picked, and equipping her with a bunch of equipment and making more cats and just more cats upon more cats. So this one has a special place in my heart, even though I didn't play during Scars of Mirrodin, but it was when I got back into Magic. And I think overall, with a good build, this card can do pretty well.
I'm sure, is this a card that's popular in Commander?
I think so, because if she's the commander, just 3 mana to get her out pretty fast, pretty efficiently, and then you got a lot of swords and other equipment.
Yeah. Also, just like mono white cat, Commander seems like a reasonable thing that could happen. I'm sure it exists out there. I do remember this card from Scars of Mirrodin, vaguely. I'm sure I lost it. I'm sure I played it poorly at some point and managed to not win with it, too.
Mm-hmm. This is one of these rares in Double Masters that it's apparently 28 cents or so, but it's more about the experience of using this card and building a great deck, not the value, where we've got the extremes, don't we? We've got cards like Mana Crypt and Force of Will that are like very valuable and of course playable, and then we've got others that are a lot less valuable but still playable. And if you're working with Constructed, you have a variety of cards, or if you're doing limited, if you can do a limited drafting of Double Masters, you can still get some great synergies.
If only.
Yeah.
If only. I can see it on Magic Online, but
yeah.
Yeah. Plus, every rare and mythic of the set can't be $100 card. So,
yeah.
And you want the set to be draftable, and and have something for everyone. And I can tell you, there's a lot of people out there. If they open a Force of Will, they're not really excited about playing that card.
Yeah. Have you played any drafts of any Masters sets in the past?
So, I went to the first 2 Modern Master Grand Prix. So I never maybe I did draft those. I probably did do a couple drafts of, definitely, I don't think I did drafts of the first one because I'm pretty sure the set was too limited that they couldn't do drafts with it, if I remember that correctly.
I don't doubt it. It was a new product. They were still trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah, I think they limited the print run of it. So, because I think that was like one. I remember I ordered boxes and they got canceled because like places didn't get enough boxes in. I did secure one box, which I still have. I have a sealed box of Modern Masters sitting upstairs.
I'm gonna cut that out of the podcast because we don't want anyone breaking into your house for that treasure.
It's not worth that much. But yeah, so I think that set wasn't really drafted because I think it was too limited in print. If I remember correctly, I might be misremembering, but I think I did draft the second Modern Masters set. I feel like I drafted one of them. And then I did like some of the original like master sets that were like the MTGO only ones that were meant to get like stuff for Legacy and Vintage on Moto. I did do a couple of those like way back when. Like Moto looked a lot different than it does now back then. So but yeah, no, I haven't drafted this Double Master set yet. I haven't played a whole lot of Moto. My time that I do have to play Magic mostly just goes to Arena.
Yeah. That just popped into my mind because I was listening to Limited Resources earlier today, and Marshall Sutcliffe and Luis Scott Vargas were talking about that basically no one's going to play it in real life because it's pretty expensive. But over on Moto, you can play, I think they said for 10 ticks, you can play Phantom. And for, I think, 20 or 25, you can do Keep the Cards mode. And it was just cool to kind of hear that even though we can't play that set in real life, there's still digital, there's still Magic Online.
Yeah. I do know a few people who have been playing it, and it sounds like it's been pretty good so far. So
Well, we picked a lot of great cards for a lot of great formats, and final thoughts on anything card-related, arena-related, or anything at all?
Being able to play Arena has been really fun. While I have not had Paper Magic, not that I had a whole lot of Paper Magic before, anyways, but you know, I think it makes you even more thankful just that we have access to good digital products right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, just that's a thought.
Yes, it's a good one because I'm glad to be part of Magic Arena to see its evolution. I remember when it first started off, how much clunkier it was and limited card pool, and then now it's like a full-fledged. I remember when it was in beta for a long time, and then they put it out to the public, and they've just been improving upon it, and now we have drafts with real people, and we've had cube drafts. And remember when they put Black Lotus in there for like a few days?
I do remember that.
Yeah, so I think they're going to keep improving and evolving the game, and we're here for the ride. And even though we're social distancing and hopefully we'll overcome this global pandemic in due time, I'm glad to still be able to connect with people and play some form of Magic.
For sure.
Well, as we wind down, let's tell people where we can find you online to watch your streams or check you out on social media and such.
Yep. I'm Mythic Mikaela on Twitch, live Monday and Wednesday from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and I do non-Magic stuff on Saturday nights too. If you're interested in that, like 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also on Twitter at Mythic Mikaela.
Oh, okay. And what non-Magic stuff do you stream on Twitch?
Well, last week we broke. So my husband joins me for those streams. Just, you know, it's kind of our thing that we do together Saturday nights, I guess, to spend time together. And so last week we did Fall Guys because, you know, beta was out and or the early access. So that was fun. And then, but what we've been playing through is I've been playing through Yoshi's Island. And he's mostly like spectating and laughing at my failures because I've never played the game before. I've never seen the gameplay before. And
is this off of like the Nintendo Virtual Store or on a vintage Super Nintendo?
It's a SNES Classic.
Oh, okay.
Yep, SNES Classic on a capture card.
Very cool. I never played that one back in the day because that's technically Super Mario World 2, isn't it? Subtitled Yoshi's Island, I think, or am I mixing things up? I'm trying.
Like, I feel like that might have been like I think that might have been the name on. Because I think is it Super Mario 2? I think it might be Super Mario 2, but I think there is a Yoshi's Island 2 as well. Yeah. I'm not great with my Nintendo lore. I think I've probably mentioned it on the other times that I've been on that. I'm like not super deep into lore. I don't read cutscenes. I skip cutscenes. I am like the worst gamer ever in that sense. But I just want to play the game. I don't need this cutscene.
Exactly.
Storyline. Let me just go kill some stuff.
Yeah. One of my favorite games of all time was for the Super Nintendo, Final Fantasy II, which was in the US. It was Final Fantasy II, but in Japan it was Final Fantasy IV. So that was way back in 1991, and that was like one of the most amazing complex RPGs, and that one is full of cutscenes, full of dialogue, and I kind of want to watch someone's playthrough on YouTube where they lovingly go through every single screen and cutscene just to remember what that game was like 30 years ago, almost 30 years ago. Wow, that was a long time. Yeah, that video games have been around for a long time now. Yeah. I think there was like a Happy Birthday Pac-Man a few months ago. There was some even more vintage game. And that's been around, I guess it's like 1980 or so. So that's 40 years ago. Yep, video games have been part of our life for a long time. Yeah, any of your arcade cabinets were 80s, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe 70s to some extent. I'm not 100% sure on that. But. Mm-hmm. Well, join us again next time, listener, as Mikaela and I talk about vintage video games. New podcast. Yes. As for myself, I'm on Twitter as well. I'm on Twitch and YouTube and everywhere. Just search for VM Campos. You'll find me. I'm also on Patreon, patreon.com/VM Campos. Get some cool stuff there or simply follow for free. And I'm usually just streaming Magic. That's Saturday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific time. Come hang out as we do some draft, or maybe some 1v1s, or try to get some more of those Jumpstart lands and such, but that's where you'll find me. Well, Mikaela, thank you so much for being on the podcast again and sharing some cards.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's wonderful talking about all these new cards that are out.
Well, this has been VM Campos. Thank you for listening to the podcast, and I will see you in the arena.